Welcome to the Human Curious. If you love exploring the mysteries of life and the universe, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like to join our curious community. The air in Bandung was thick with rain and jasmine. For Senja, it always felt like a promise made to someone else. They sat by the window, city sounds distant, holding an old faded photograph of their family beneath a banyan tree. Senja was there, a small child at the edge, their face blurry, like the camera couldn't quite see them, a ghost in their own history. Senja traced the outline of that blur, feeling present in a memory, but not quite there. It was a feeling that followed them, always on the outside, a background character in their own story. People looked through them, not at them, conversations flowed around them. The photograph was silent proof, a life lived slightly out of focus. Outside, the call to prayer echoed, a sound of belonging. Senja closed their eyes, trying to feel part of it, but the feeling slipped away. The quiet returned, a sense of being on the outside looking in. They watched the city's colors and heard its sounds but couldn't quite touch it. Separated by an invisible wall, the photograph felt heavy in their hands. It was more than paper. It was a question with no easy answer. The next morning, Senja went to their favorite coffee stall. Pak Budi, the old vendor, should have known them. "One kopi tubruk, please," Senja said. Pak Budi nodded but handed the coffee to the stranger behind Senja. Senja stood there, invisible. This was what they called a glitch, moments when reality skipped over them. Like supermarket doors that wouldn't open or their name missing from lists. It was more than being forgotten. It was as if the universe had a blind spot, a corrupted file in the system. Senja didn't correct Pak Budi. They just walked away, the sun's warmth distant. Through the market, people flowed around them. No one bumped into them, no one made eye contact. A ghost drifting through the world. They saw everything, bright fruit, laughing children, batik patterns. But they were only the observer. The glitches were becoming more frequent, or maybe Senja was just noticing them more. Each one was a crack in their reality. Was it memory, imagination, or something stranger? The world buzzed with life, but Senja felt like they were slowly being erased. One forgotten coffee, one unopened door, one missing name at a time. The world was forgetting how to see them, and Senja wondered if they were forgetting themselves too. There had to be a name for this feeling. Senja searched online, typing their feelings into search engines. They found words: depersonalization, being an observer of your own life. Derealization, the world feels dreamlike, unreal, both felt familiar. Looking in the mirror, not recognizing themselves, not frightening, just disconnected. The world sometimes looked like a painting, beautiful but flat. These words were comforting, others felt this too, but labels weren't answers. They described symptoms, not causes. Senja's life had been quiet, no great tragedy, no clear reason for the fraying edges of reality. The feeling seemed older, deeper, like a fundamental state of being. Maybe they were born this way. The labels were a small comfort, but the feeling of being a cosmic error persisted. Was their existence a mistake or something else? The questions grew bigger than psychology. If you were never meant to be here, were you free or destined to fade away? The uncertainty was both terrifying and strangely liberating. Senja kept searching for meaning in the static. Senja's search led them to obscure online forums. People called themselves glitches, echoes, the unwritten. Stories echoed Senja's own vanishing reflections, missing baby photos, faded records. Senja checked their own birth certificate at the records office. The clerk found it, barely. The ink was faded, the stamp missing, another anomaly, another piece of evidence. Senja left, heart pounding, the city outside sharper, more real, and they felt even less a part of it. Back home, they posted on the forum. "I think I am one of you, my birth certificate is almost blank." Replies flooded in, messages of understanding from around the world. A community of ghosts, cosmic typos. For the first time, Senja felt a strange sense of belonging. It was real. They were not imagining it. Something was fundamentally different about them, and about others like them. The question was no longer if they were a glitch, but why. The search for answers had only just begun. Senja realized they were not alone in the static. There were others, scattered across the world, searching for meaning in the margins. Together they formed a constellation of anomalies, and Senja felt a flicker of hope. Maybe being a ghost meant you could find your own kind. On the forum, someone mentioned Dr. Eris Thorne. Senja found his paper, Anomalous Human Consciousness and Quantum Uncertainty. Dr. Thorne's theory, reality is like a simulation, always correcting itself. Sometimes errors occur, tiny glitches that become living beings. People not in the original code of destiny, quantum fluctuations that became conscious, anomalies overlooked by the universe. Senja emailed him, explaining the glitches, the faded birth certificate, the sense of invisibility. They didn't expect a reply. But the next day Dr. Thorne wrote, "I understand, my home is open, come and talk." Senja went to his house in the hills. Dr. Thorne listened to Senja's story. "You are not broken," he said. "You are simply an anomaly, a possibility the universe did not account for." For the first time their strangeness felt seen. Senja was not a mistake, they were a surprise. The meeting was a turning point. Maybe being an anomaly meant they could write their own story. And for the first time Senja felt a glimmer of acceptance. Dr. Thorne poured tea, steam curling in the afternoon light. "Quantum physics talks about the quantum foam, a sea of potential where most possibilities vanish instantly," he said. "But what if rarely one holds on? What if it becomes a person?" "That is my theory. You are a child of that foam, a being of pure possibility." He spoke of ancient Gnostics who believed in unwritten souls, outsiders to the grand design, souls not bound by fate, longing for a home they couldn't remember. "You feel out of place because you are out of place," he said. The connection was breathtaking, a bridge between physics and ancient philosophy. The feeling of being a glitch was not a sign of being broken, but of being different in a cosmic way. "The universe is a story," Dr. Thorne continued. "Most people have their parts written for them, you have no tracks. You are not in the script, the universe doesn't know what to do with you. That is why it sometimes forgets you are there. You are an unexpected variable. You are not a mistake, you are a surprise." The word hung in the air. Surprise, not an error. Senja let the idea settle in their mind. Maybe being unwritten was a kind of freedom. The universe had left them a blank page. And now, they could choose what to write. Quick break. Let's shake things up for a moment. What's the most mysterious or unexplainable thing that's ever happened to you? Maybe it was a strange coincidence, a dream that felt too real, or a moment where you felt like you didn't quite fit in. Drop your story in the comments below. Let's get curious together. Who knows? Your mystery might inspire someone else's next adventure. Now let's dive back in and see what Senja writes on their blank page. The conversation with Dr. Thorne changed everything. The sadness that had followed Senja began to lift, replaced by acceptance. Being an unwritten soul was not a curse, it was a gift. For years, Senja had tried to fit in, searching for a script that didn't exist. Now, they understood. There was only a blank page, and they held the pen. Invisibility became freedom. If the world had no expectations, Senja could be anyone, do anything. The glitches were moments of pure potential, pauses, where the universe waited to see what they'd do next. Senja walked home as the sun set, the city a canvas waiting for their colors. Loneliness was still there, but it was just one note in a larger song. They thought of the photograph, the blurry child at the edge. For so long they'd seen that blur as a flaw. Now it was potential. The face was blurry because it hadn't been decided. The child was an open question. And now, Senja understood. They got to answer it. The past was a blur, but the future was a blank page. Senja was ready to write the first word. The story was theirs to tell, and for the first time, that felt like enough. The world was open. Senja stepped forward. The days that followed were different. Not because the world changed, but because Senja did. The glitches still happened, but now they felt like reminders of freedom. Senja began to use these moments, observing the world with new intensity. They decided to start painting, something they'd never tried before. They bought watercolors and paper, and sat in the city square. They didn't paint the Grand Mosque perfectly. They painted the feeling. The energy of children, the calm of old men, the vibrant life of the city. Their paintings were strange and beautiful, full of colors that didn't belong, shapes that weren't quite right. At first, the art was just for them, a way to write their own story, one brushstroke at a time. It was proof they existed, not because of a birth certificate but because they could create. One day, a child watched them paint. Senja handed the finished painting, a swirl of blue and yellow, the feeling of a happy afternoon, to the child. The child smiled, and in that moment, Senja felt more real than ever. They had connected, created a moment of joy. They had written a beautiful sentence on their blank page, and it was enough. The world was still full of glitches, but now each one was an invitation to create, to connect, to exist. Senja was no longer a ghost. They were a possibility, painting their own reality. The story was theirs, and it was just beginning. To feel like you were never supposed to be born is a lonely thought, a ghost in your own life. We search for explanations, wondering if we are broken or if the world is. But maybe those who feel out of place are not mistakes, they are miracles. In a universe of rules and patterns, perhaps the most beautiful things are the exceptions, the anomalies, the surprises, a quantum fluctuation that decides to stay, an unwritten soul that writes its own story. Maybe the purpose of those who don't belong is not to fit in, but to create something new, to paint with colors no one has seen, to write sentences no one has read. They are not bound by old stories, they are free to imagine new ones. Their disconnection is their greatest strength. It gives them the perspective to see the world differently, to rewrite the code. So if you ever feel like you were not meant to be here, remember Senja, remember the blank page. Your existence is not an error, it is an opportunity. You are not a ghost, you are a possibility. Not a typo, but a poem the universe didn't know it was waiting to read. The world is full of stories already written, but the most exciting stories are the ones that have not yet begun. You are not a mistake, you are the beginning of a new story. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of possibility and wonder. If these stories resonated with you, or if you've ever felt like a beautiful mistake, know that you are not alone, and your story matters here. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your questions, or your own unwritten tales in the comments below. If you found meaning in this journey, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing The Human Curious with someone who might need to hear these words. Your curiosity, your perspective, and your presence help shape the next chapter. Stay curious, stay courageous, and remember, the story continues with you.